I want to talk to you about intensity today. CrossFit is constantly varied high intensity functional movement, and there's a misconception about high intensity. It does not mean max intensity every day, and you might think of CrossFit and high intensity and just think of like people falling on the floor and sweaty and maybe someone who's done it, or you've done it and you felt sick after a workout or something like that, and you think that's just what it's supposed to be every single day no matter what. But high intensity is relative to two different things, and there could be more things, but there's two concepts to think about when you're thinking about how to approach your workouts day in and day out. How hard should I go? One is it's relative to your psychological and physical tolerances. So it's actually two different things, and then there's another thing I'll talk about. But so physical tolerance is, well, let me talk about psychological tolerance first. So psychological tolerance is subjective, and it's just like, where are you mentally as far as how hard you're able to go that day? And maybe if you're in your 20s, you can go max intensity or really hard every day. But definitely as people get older, or just the more you train, it can be hard to actually push yourself to max intensity day in and day out. So, some people just aren't ready for that yet either when they start. And I actually tell people when they first start that for your first month of CrossFit, and it's not a hard and fast number. Some people need a little longer than that, some people a little less, but essentially when you're first starting, I'd want you to walk away from your workouts feeling like I could have done more rather than I did too much. I want you to be like a little bit upset at me that I didn't let you go a little bit heavier on the barbell, and you think you could have, but I didn't let you. Like that's a good thing. I want you to leave the gym each day feeling like you're confident to come back the next day. And that's a good example of psychological tolerance. Like maybe you're physically able to go a little harder, but as someone new, it just may not be the wisest way to start, because you might get burnt out really quick. So it's relative to your psychological tolerance, and then it's relative to your physical tolerance as well. And that has to do with mechanics, consistency, and only then intensity, which is something we have on the wall at the gym. And it means that you have to move well first, and then you have to move well consistently across multiple reps, not just like show me one good rep, but show me 10 good reps in a row. And then when you're tired, still being able to move well. Then and only then you ratchet up the intensity. So what that means is that if you're in the middle of a workout and your form starts to break down, and a coach gives you a cue or a correction to fix whatever it is that's starting to break down, and you're not able to, the proper next step would be to stop and rest, or take some weight off the bar, or slow down. Not, hey, it's supposed to be intense, so I need to keep going. You want to prioritize the mechanics and consistency first, and it's really hard for people to do when, especially in the middle of a workout. But the people who stay in it for the long game, and the tortoise versus the hare, are the ones who prioritize mechanics and consistency day in and day out, and who honor their psychological tolerance and don't try to push through things just because of ego. So it takes some self-awareness, some humility, but that's really the best way to go about it. And there's different ways to reduce intensity in workouts but still get a really good workout. I was talking to somebody about this today. One example, we did a workout earlier this week that was, you run 400 meters and then you do 10 pull-ups, 20 push-ups, 30 air squats, and then you repeat the push-ups, pull-ups, and air squats for 4 minutes, and then you rest for 2 minutes and you do it again. And the intensity is literally the amount of work you're getting done in the time it takes you to do it. So the less, if you take a fixed amount of work, the less time it takes you to do it, the higher the intensity is. It's power output. It's literally a mathematical equation that you can draw up and assign a number to. The highest power output way to do that workout for some people might be to do the 10 pull-ups in 2 sets. So do like 6 pull-ups, jump off the bar, jump right back on, do 4 pull-ups, And same with the push-ups. You do the push-ups, you do like 8, 7, 5 to add up to 20. Because taking the short little breaks allows you to keep going, and just that 1 or 2 second break, shaking your arms out, is enough to recharge a little bit. But a way that you could still get a really great workout and bring down the intensity would be to force yourself to do those movements unbroken if you're able to. And you can translate this to maybe it's ring rows instead of pull-ups, and maybe it's knee push-ups instead of push-ups from your toes. So you can translate this to any kind of scaling modifications as well. But if you're going to stick to doing unbroken sets of pull-ups, that might mean you need to rest longer before you start your pull-ups. And it might mean that you actually get a lower score on the workout, so your intensity is actually a little bit lower. But you're doing unbroken sets of pull-ups, so you're still training something specific. There's an intention in your training, which is a little more muscular stamina focused, a little more strength focused. And same with the push-ups. Maybe you're like, I'm going to do these 20 push-ups unbroken no matter what, but that means you're going to have to rest a little longer between the pull-ups and the push-ups. So you may end up getting less rounds and reps done overall, but you're training a specific stimulus of increasing your push-up muscular stamina. And at the same time, you're essentially dialing back the intensity a little bit because you're literally getting less work done in the same amount of time, if that makes sense. But that's just one of the ways you can start to think about your workouts, and modulating your intensity. It doesn't necessarily mean, the workout wasn't worth it or it could have been better. There's just different ways you can approach stuff. So just some stuff to think about for you. Intensity doesn't mean max intensity every day. It just means relatively high. Which, if you're just showing up to class and just generally listening to the coaches, trying to hit the stimulus, pushing a little bit harder than you want to, you're going to hit plenty of intensity. Now, on the flip side of that, I think there is, maybe this is for a different episode of the Dashboard Deep Dives, but I do think there's some people who've been doing CrossFit for a really long time who know what real intensity feels like, and they're afraid of it. And so they always kind of modulate themselves into a place where they never hit max intensity. That's a topic for another day, but that could be why you're stalling out in your progress if you're avoiding intensity. So, multifaceted, interesting thing to think about and talk about. If you guys have questions about any of this stuff, feel free to comment on these videos or shoot me a message on Instagram or something, and I'll answer your questions.